there, and we got some costumes, so you'll see, check out the staff later. We've got some costumes, and then I found this awesome costume. And the first person that I thought of when I saw this costume was my wife. And so I called her, I said, hey Jean, there is this great costume that I want to get for you, and it's only $8. You know, Value Village, right? It's awesome. And I said, told her what it was, and she said, do you want me to get it? And she goes, sure. So I got it and brought it home, and she tried it on. And it was I actually thought it would fit her. But it was a child's gingerbread costume. So it didn't, well, it fit her, but she turned out to be a very curvy gingerbread girl. And this is a family event, right? So she actually went and got a different costume. Let's just go to the next slide, just to, okay, maybe. So she got a different costume, so you can check it out. But that costume, something else, but it was good. So I want to ask you, just have fun, get involved, right, and celebrate with the kids. It's good. 2 weeks ago, we started talking about how people want radical change in their life, especially when you think something isn't right. And we talk about when we talk about radical change, normally when we talk about it, we're just basically thinking, I want something totally new, something very different. When relationship is bad, get a new boyfriend, get a new girlfriend. That's a radical change. When work is bad, get a new job. That's a radical change. When marriage isn't working out, get a new husband. That's a radical change. Our culture has a tendency to tell us that when something isn't good, leave it, walk away, get something better, get something new. I think too many people, especially even Christians, we are buying into this kind of mentality. That if something doesn't work out, I'm dumping it, I'm leaving it, getting something new, getting something better. And let me just kind of talk about relationship, the context of relationships when it comes to that. I really believe, live in a Facebook culture, and where everybody has more than like 200-300 friends. Do you really have more than 200-300 friends? Right? We like to think that we have a lot of friends, but we don't have someone that we can share our deepest pains with. We may claim we have 400 friends, but do we have somebody that we can share our deepest dreams with? We live in a Facebook culture where we think our friends have to be perfect. Our experiences, whether it's a vacation or this or that, has to be picture perfect. Because I know I like to post my Facebook. Go, oh, because you don't want to put anything bad on there. That doesn't make any sense. So we post the things that are perfect. Our friends even look perfect. But we know they're not, but they look perfect. And on my friend's Facebook, I found this. And I do have a friend. See? And it says, may your life someday be as awesome as you pretend it is on Facebook. I said, that's totally awesome! Because we know it's not. We know that our life isn't perfect. We know that our friends aren't perfect. We know that our vacations aren't perfect. Right? We know that, I was just talking to Rob and Julianne about their honeymoon. Sometimes that doesn't turn out perfect. I know my honeymoon wasn't perfect. It wasn't. Our honeymoon, it lasted 2 days. And my wife got bored and she's like, let's just go home. I'm like, dang it. You know it's a letdown when your wife wants to leave the honeymoon and go home. Oh, what am I doing wrong? Right? It's not perfect, but it's okay. And that's just how life is. It doesn't mean that we have Facebook, right? It doesn't mean that we have to pretend that everything is perfect. It doesn't mean that we have to dump everything and move on to something new and better, like our culture tells us. The Bible actually does say that we need a radical change in our life. But the kind of radical change that the Bible talks about is to be more rooted. And we started this 2 weeks ago, and I'm just kind of recapping on it. What many of us don't realize is that to be rooted is also to have radical change. Right? The word root, radical, come from the same word, radicalus. And I asked you guys, Radical. What kind of vegetable comes to your mind? And I said that at the breakfast worship, and one of my daughters, as brilliant as she is in her public education, said, ridiculous. Put your hand down. We need to pay a little bit more for that education. Right? Radish, root, right? That's what it means. To have something radical change in our life is to become more rooted. And Jeremiah is the basis of what we're talking about. Jeremiah is talking about what it says, blessed are those who trust in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. They shall be like a tree planted by water, sending out its root by the stream. It shall not fear when heat comes on top, right? Because it's rooted by the stream. And its leaves shall stay green. In the year of drought it is not anxious, and it does not cease to bear fruit. And that's God's intent for our life. That no matter what is happening around us, happening in our world, that we stay rooted and that we bear fruit. That's what we need in our life. We need spiritual roots that will influence every other part of our life and not vice versa. Too many of us are living the vice versa life, where we're letting the cultural trends influence our life, our perspective, our attitude, our relationships, and even our spirituality. Right? If God doesn't work for you, I'm finding something else. If prayer doesn't work for me, I'm not going to pray. I'm going to do something else. But the radical change that God has outlined for our life is to become more rooted in our spirituality. Today, I want to touch on the first kind of roots that I think we need to grow. And I think this is, if there is a main root, I think this would be it. And it is the roots of gratitude. We have to be a grateful people. And when you look at 1 Thessalonians, Paul, in talking to the church in Thessalonica, says, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. This is one of the few places in the Bible where it just explicitly comes out and says, this is God's will for your life. So many people wandering through life going, oh, what's God's will for my life? Is it God's will for me to have this boyfriend? Is this girl, God's will for my life? Is this job God's will for my life? Or how about where my kids go to college? Oh, is this God's will? We talk about God's will as if there was something very specific thing that God wants in our life. Specific boy, specific girl, specific job. But what the passage from 1 Thessalonians tells us is, God's will for your life is much broader than that. It's that you, as a child of God, be able to give thanks in no matter what situation that you find yourself in. Giving thanks. I really think these are some really strong roots that we need in our life. Let me put it in context. I'll just pick one topic. Since relationships is a big thing, let's just talk about husbands and wives. Husbands, are you thankful for your wife? Oh, I need to hear some brown nosers here. Are you thankful for your wife?
Most times.
Oh, thank you, John. How about other people? Are you thankful for your wife? Yes? Rob, you just got married, dude. You better be very thankful she married you. Right? My mom used to tell me, this is after we're married. She used to tell me this all the time. She goes, I don't know what she's still doing with you. Mom, I'm your son. Look at this. What? Are you thankful for your wife? Sometimes, maybe, yes. No matter what your answer is, it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter whether you feel thankful for your wife. What's important and what that passage tells us is that we are to give thanks for our wives every opportunity we get, in every situation that we find ourselves in. Take another look at that passage. Does it say give thanks for your wife only when she's good to you? Only when she's cooking for you, cleaning for you, whatever? Only when she's sweet to you? No. What does it say? Give thanks in what? all circumstances, not some. All circumstances. Give thanks. That word comes from Greek. The Greek word in the Bible, when it says give thanks, it's talking about one word which is Eucharistio. Right? Eucharistio. Do you guys know, does that word sound like something for you churchy people? Eucharist! That's right, Eucharist! Eucharist means to give thanks. Come on, have a seat. That's awesome. I love that. We can't ignore this. That is awesome. Wait till you see mine. My daughter turned into a boy today. I don't know if you guys noticed that. That's sitting next to me. You thought it was some kid with a big beard, right? That's my daughter. It comes from the word Eucharist. They come from the same word. Eucharist is what? Communion. Eucharist is the Lord's Supper. And just take a moment and think about that. The implications of that. To give thanks is the same as when we are in communion, when we take bread and wine. And I'm not trying to be a heretic here, but I think thousands of years ago, when Jesus was breaking the bread and the wine, it's not something new that Jesus was doing. The Jewish community had been doing this for thousands of more years, ever since they came out of Egypt. Right? They started celebrating the Passover, and they took bread and they broke it. They took wine and they poured it. Jesus was taking something that was very common in the people's lives, and he gave it new meaning. He did some. Because can you imagine people coming out of Egypt? They didn't have bread like we did. Let's be real. Keep it real. It wasn't glamorous. When we picture them coming out of Egypt, I think we make it too glamorous, but I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure that bread wasn't very tasty. I'm sure it wasn't very clean. That wine, I'm sure it was very stale.